Hi Scoobies, how are you all doing? I hope you're doing fantastically fabulous. I know I look the same. We're doing a couple of videos today, just calm down. I figured out that I have iMovie because I have a Mac Mini. So I gotta edit these videos on the Mac Mini, and then I got to upload them to iCloud. And then I've got to transfer them over to my Windows PC where I can then upload them, because uploading videos over Wi-Fi takes days, trust me. I've been here before. So, actually it might be better. I have faster internet now. I'll test it by just uploading on my Mac Mini. But I want to talk today about the concept of solitary witchcraft and what that looks like. So, when we as witches start out on this journey, 9 times out of 10, we are starting out as solitary witches. And there's lots of books on being a solitary witch. But how do you practice witchcraft when you're just one person? Like, don't you need a group of people to raise that energy, to open that circle, to do this, to do that, to do everything? Well, it depends. On one simple question. Do you want to be a part of a coven? Now, you might want to be a part of a coven, but you live in rural Oklahoma, or you live in rural Texas, right? Like, there's nothing around you for hundreds of miles, and it's a lot of time and effort to drive out to where these particular covens might meet. There are online covens. Just like with any coven, you know, drama can ensue, but whatever, we're not talking about that. There are online covens that you can join. You just have to find them, Google them, search for them. Some of them are more Facebook group oriented, but you're probably thinking, well, how do you join an online, like, don't you have to be face-to-face? Some of these people will do live video chats. And when I say live, I don't literally mean on YouTube. I mean like Facebook Messenger, or when Google Hangouts was around, or whatever else the case is now, FaceTiming, whatever. They will do those type of things to be face-to-face. They will raise the energy, they will all be in circle together, they'll create a mystical circle around everybody in the online group. They will raise their energy, they will do their spells, they will do their incantations, they will do the things that they need to do. It can be done. Because at the end of the day, all you're doing is manipulating energy. Whether you're 1 kilometer away or 500 miles away, it really doesn't matter. It's all about being able to manipulate energy. But what if you don't want to be a part of a coven? And you live in the middle of nowhere? How do you practice witchcraft when you live in the middle of nowhere? Or if you live in the middle of a city. I live downtown in my city. Really want to live in the suburbs. So how do you practice when you live alone? Or when you're just a solitary practitioner? What does that look like? You can still have an altar. You can still have all of your tools. You do everything the same, just without other people. So if you're going down the Wiccan path, well, you still cast your circle, you still consecrate your tools, you still consecrate your space, you still, do all the things that you would do in a coven, but you're doing it alone. Is that as effective as doing it in a group? I would say absolutely. A group's collective energy is really great for big things, in my opinion. The best example I can give of that is when Gerald Gardner got a bunch of his coven together and did the Cone of Power. If you don't know what the Cone of Power is, look it up. There's your research for the day. That is a really great example of group collective power. Could Gerald Gardner have done that on his own? That would take an immense amount of energy. That would probably drain him to the point where it could kill him. Those are situations where you'd want to use group power. Think about these witches who are cursing Donald Trump. Think about these witches that are cursing X, Y, or Z. Like, you hear about it in the news sometimes. Very rarely, but sometimes. That is a form of collective power. One witch may not necessarily be able to take someone down, but a group of them? All of that power, all of that magical energy being sent in one direction? I don't care if you're Fort Knox level protected. You're gonna feel something. But where does solitary come into that? Because all of that group stuff sounds really fun. I want to curse Hitler, I want to curse Donald Trump, I want to do this, I want to do that. Solitary craft works really well for about 90% of the witches on YouTube. There are some witches on YouTube who are in a coven and they talk about their coven and they have their coven on their channel and so on and so forth. But for the most of us, we are solitary practitioners. We practice alone. Some of us, we practice in secret. I don't understand this broom closet concept, but that's for a different video. So when we practice alone, when we're practicing our craft alone, it's still as effective. We don't have the distractions of other people around us, so we're able to raise that energy much better and a little bit faster. We're able to have more intimate relationships with the deities, the spirits, and the entities that we work with. There's nothing wrong with being in a coven, and there's nothing wrong with being solitary. It really depends on what path is right for you. And a little bit of your location. But again, if you really want to be a part of a coven, there are online covens. So at the end of the day, in the age of the internet, technically, regardless of where you live, you could live in the middle of the ocean on a tiny island with a small hut and a lot of internet connection. You can still be a part of a coven. You can also practice solitary. Practicing solitary is actually a lot more fun, in my opinion. I get to dictate how my craft grows and evolves. I get to say who and who I do not work with. I get to explore various concepts of witchcraft and, in some cases, Wicca, without offending anybody, without worrying that, oh, well, I'm supposed to be doing this for the coven this week, and that for the coven next week, and so on and so forth, and blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, when you practice as a solitary witch, you can do what you want, when you want, how you want, without fear of repercussion from other people around you. At least in a practicing of the craft way. So which one should you be? You should be whatever feels right for you, regardless of where you are. You just have to find a group of people with a similar mindset about what it is that you practice. You can fit right on in. Now, if you're a Wiccan, I wouldn't really suggest joining a coven that's satanic. But then again, maybe you're interested in that. I don't really think Satanism and Wicca go together, but that's a whole other video for a whole other day. So at the end of the day, you have to figure out what works best for you and why. I like practicing as a solitary witch. I have a lot of opinions, I have a lot of controversial thoughts. I like to use things in my craft that you probably wouldn't think of using. I like to curse, hex, burn, it doesn't really matter. I like to work with demons, I like to work with spirits, I like to work with different forms of entities. And that doesn't work with every other coven. That doesn't work with every coven out there. It might work with some, but I prefer to be alone in my craft. Because I have control over my craft. For the most part. I may not have control over every spell or ritual that I do. That's up to the spirits and some of the demons that I work with. Mostly the spirits, sometimes the Morrigan. But for me, I get to explore these things. That's why I like doing it solitary. If you're a solitary witch, I want to know in the comments down below, why are you a solitary witch? Well, like, what inspired you to go down that path? Okay, Scoobies.